You talk a whole lot about Griffons. Like, it's kind of like your babies. We even have a bird on screen right here. Like, that's how big it is. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Hydrated Gamers podcast. For our group of gamers today, they probably spend most of their time actually in the air compared to walking around on the ground in Tyria. I have with me some guild members from the guild Wing. Thank you so much, Willow, Penguin, and Arcadis for joining me here today. I think to start off, a brief introduction from everyone's side would be great. I want to know the following. Here we go. Your favorite profession in the game and when you started playing Guild Wars 2.
Okay, well, I'm Weeping Willow. I am a Mesmer and Elementalist main. I kind of swapped between those two. I started, I don't even really know when I truly started. It was around Heart of Thorns, I guess, when that came out, with some people from my study at the time. Then I took a break and I came back again, and then I got addicted to Griffons, and that's been about 4 years ago that I really got into the whole Griffon shenanigans. So
nice. Elementalist and Mesmer, great choices. It's also cool that you weren't a player who started in 2012. I think Heart of Thorns, I'm such a nerd, it started in 2015. I remember I graduated from high school that year, and a new expansion for Guild Wars. Oh my goodness, can't wait. So really cool to hear that you started before Griffons got added into the game.
Yes, exactly. It's not just the Griffons.
Penguin, listen, there's no Penguin class in Guild Wars 2, but what's your favorite profession and when did you start?
So I'm Penguin Paladin. My favorite class first is probably Berserker. I play that the most in terms of actual playing the game. I used to play a lot of Banner Warrior when that still existed. I started playing not long after the game came out, and I played for a couple of years with friends at school, and then I took quite a long break, and I decided to play again during COVID, and I saw someone run past on a Raptor, and I was like, whoa, this game has mounts now. And there we go. That's basically hooked me back in. Here we are.
I have to ask, the character that's in the background of your webcam right there, what character is that? Like, what is that? Your Berserker?
No, this is my flying character, my soul beast. So she's called Penguin, which is like a mix of my name and the guild.
I think I got to level up my background then. Maybe next time I'll have some cool looking screenshot then. Arcadis, we got to know, what is your favorite profession in the game? When did you start playing? No, you're not an ArenaNet developer, so I know you weren't making the game, but fill us in.
But I am the most veteran of you guys because I started playing in December 2022. I have been here for a year. I am an avid Mesmer main, and I like to think of myself that I'm the last Mirage right now.
The last Mirage. You're an endangered species is what they say,
yes.
You know?
We keep getting elected by those damn ArenaNet developers. They decided too much fun. We need to nerf Mirage, buff Condivert. There we go, it's fine.
Arcadis was chilling. He was living his golden years. Then all of a sudden, the Fire Nation, ArenaNet swept in and nerfed his class down.
Even in the joke patch notes, they didn't even acknowledge the existence of Mirage. They're not even the jokes.
It's just a Mirage.
Wait, Mirage exists?
I'm sure a lot of us probably dipped our toes into all the different classes and elite specs within the game, but cool to hear a little bit of background from y'all. A lot of people are probably listening like, what is Wing? Like, what's so important about this guild? And I think maybe to start off, the foundation of Wing would be great to hear. Willow, I think they nominated you to answer this question, so we're curious.
So basically, a few years ago, when I started Griffon flying, it was really something, I already done it with some friends. There was already a bit of a community there, and it was something that I was kind of passionate about. I really enjoyed, challenging myself and also my friends with certain stunts, and obviously trying to succeed in them and making them worse. Eventually, around, I guess, 2-3 years ago now, there's this girl named United Arts of Tyria, and we kind of did a crossover thing with the Griffons, and I was like, okay, I'm going to teach these raiders how to fly the Griffon. And I started a workshop, which is what we now do a few times a week. But I started with a workshop there, and I really enjoyed teaching all these people how to fly. Like, I've done it like sometimes like with single people, I like single person teaching them how to fly. But now it was like, okay, big group, teaching them how to fly, taking them to certain places. And I was kind of like, okay, I kind of want to go further with that, make a little guild about that, and trying to teach more people how to Griffon, and trying to totally not get more people into Griffon flying and stuff like that. And kind of how it started out.
I'm just curious, like, you're fascination with Griffons. Like, you must have been, one of the probably the best flyers in the game on a Griffon to start off, if you're able to basically train all these people on, how to, swoop down fast and gain speed and what kind of routes to go. Like, so when did you start training Griffon riding? Like, did you see the Griffon and you're like, this is my favorite mount and I'll never ride anything else in the game? Like, tell us a little bit more about your background in that.
So I started the game just being like, oh, I want to go through the story. And I was always kind of a mount person. I will be honest with that. I'm always addicted to mounts. Even when I was like going into Arc Age and stuff like that, first thing I tried to get was the freaking horse for your bag or something. So I always really liked the mount, but I kind of went into it for just the story at first. And then I started to realize, okay, these mounts are actually interesting. They have like jumps, stuff like that, right? Like the Raptor can have these long jumps, so you can level them. And I also had a friend who was also really into Griffon riding at the time. So I've already seen those mechanics when I first got my Griffon. And when I tried it, it was like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely going to just do this for the rest of my Guild Wars experience, I guess. This was also obviously before Sky Scale came out.
I think a lot of people, maybe if you haven't played Guild Wars 2 when Path of Fire came out, that was when most of the mounts got added into the game. And one of them being the secret mount, which I don't know how they kept it a secret. It's one of the coolest things. But when Path of Fire came out, people were like, there's a 5th secret mount in the game and you can fly around in it. And it was kind of a little bit hard to get at first until people taught you how to get it. And eventually, though, it was probably one of the coolest things. And this is the foundation for Wing. Obviously, they're not always flying around on a Griffon. I think most of you guys do other content within the game other than flying around on a Griffon. But it's just so cool to see a guild that's very unique and the foundation of it is flying around. Penguin, I do want to know, like, when did you join Wing? Like, what drew you in under, Willow's, I guess, kind of like Jedi apprentice of training different routes?
Absolutely,
I'm curious.
Yeah, sure. So, over 2 years ago now. Yeah, I was just streaming the game, going through all the various content, that I'd missed over the years, collecting up all the mounts. I did Skyscale first. I thought, Skyscale looks amazing. Like, this must be the best one. I was completely wrong, obviously. I came to it and I was like, well, I'm going to do the Griffon. And for some reason, I decided to do the Griffon collection without using the wiki. I went round and round some of the maps for many hours looking for some of the eggs that they hide. But anyway, I eventually got it and I posted on Twitter. I got the mount. And Willow was looking out on the Twitter for mentions of Griffons.
That sounds like
And
me.
it was like, hey, do you want to come learn with us about how to use it? So I was like, yeah, sure. I was hooked straight in. We ended up doing some interesting adventures, but I was like, no, I want to get good at this. So I spent like half the next day trying to do the routes that we've been doing. That was sort of me getting into the guild, and then within a couple of weeks, I was like, yeah, I want to pass this on to other people. So obviously, Willow's got the big experience of teaching and training the hardest routes. So I knew I couldn't straight away teach routes that I couldn't even do myself. That would be crazy, but I thought, well, maybe I can do some sessions for people who are just like me. They've just got the Griffon, like they have no idea what they're doing. So yeah, I was like, I'm going to do beginner workshops. I've now been doing that for over 2 years. I did 2 years a few weeks ago, and not long after starting the EU one, a couple of months in, I was like, I want everyone to be able to join. So I made a special separate NA account as well, leveled everything up, got the Griffon, so I can now do the workshops on both servers at the same time. It's just great. I mean, there must have been many people through now, and whenever you see the person learn, because no offense to the game, but it doesn't do an amazing job of teaching you how to use the Griffon. A lot of people they pick up the free trial and they flap around and they're like, I don't know what it does, like I can't even dive. So yeah, they get it, and then the first time they do the speed boost dive, they press spacebar while they're diving, and they're like, "Wow, it's so fast!" Like, it's an amazing moment.
It's the greatest moment, honestly.
Usually, there's a crash right afterwards, but
oh, absolutely. But it's
I love the reactions when people are really like, "Oh, the speed! I didn't know this.
Wow, it could do
this
this
fast."
So yeah, that's basically. That's basically how I've been in.
There's a lot of traction online for like my first time playing a video game, right? Like there's a lot of traction for that. And I think a lot of you would probably binge watch a lot of people reacting to the first time flying the Griffon around because...
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And I think
We
we got to...
definitely do stalk. We definitely do stalk to streams of people like getting the Griffon. Like, ooh.
We got to give a huge shout out to ArenaNet for really making great mounts. Don't get me wrong, like some of the mounts in other MMOs, like they're fantastic as well. I tried Dragon Riding and Dragonflight, and I think they're fun as well. But when it comes to Guild Wars, like ArenaNet really mastered the amount of mounts and the movement speed and even the weight of the mounts as well. Like when you're like stopping and your character's kind of moving from gravity. I think the mounts in Guild Wars are just like top tier, probably the best. I don't think it's a hot take either. I think a lot of people probably agree with this. And it's so funny to hear that Willow, had the hood up and she's just like, hey, I saw on Twitter, you got your mount. Come on over to the dark side. I'm training a bunch of acolytes, Very nice.
Yeah.
Yes, workshops are indeed fun, and we are totally not kidnapped. It is fun.
I would never kidnap anyone.
Arcadis, walk us through, because it wasn't too long ago when you joined Wing, so it's probably just fresh off the back when Willow swept in and kidnapped you to be part of Wing. Is that correct?
Yeah. When I started Guild Wars, I didn't know of Guild Wars' existence for quite some time. I got recommended a streamer from one of my friends from Destiny, and that's how the story began. And I saw him on a sky scale. Oh my god, that's a dragon. I am a massive dragon nerd. I love dragons. And I thought, I'm going to speedrun the game to get the dragon. When I got it, I was like, oh, it's all right. It's not the best at flying, but it does everything. It's so good. Like, why would you ever need anything else than the sky scale? Then a few months later, SOTO came around, and I saw Willow's new Flight Masteries video that she did for ArenaNet, and I looked at the Griffon and went, oh my god, that's amazing. So I got the Griffon, and I remember my friend, my streamer friend Taz, kept saying that there's this elitist Griffon flying guild that they do amazing stunts. I thought, oh my god, they're elitists. I gotta do something to get in there. So I flew all of the Griffon adventures for gold, and I thought, okay, that's gotta be enough. Nowadays, you faintly spell of Griffon. Yes, you're in the guild. But back then, I was like, oh my god, they're amazing. I joined workshops. Willow dragged me to one of the worst stunts you could possibly start off flying with.
That sounds like me too, yeah. By the way.
Yeah, for the next 2 hours, I proceeded to crash at the entrance of the cave, but it was fun. I have since cleansed myself of the heresy that is Skyscale is better than Griffon. No. Skyscale is for gaining height from Griffon.
Exactly.
That's a great transition over into the next question that I wanted to ask, because a lot of people, including myself, like, I'm just an average Guild Wars 2 player when it comes to mount movement. Like, I kind of know a little bit about it, but maybe there are some basic tips that you guys can kind of give to people who are looking to try out a Griffon for the first time. Obviously, you have some roots, which is... Oh, go for it.
Flap dive.
Flap dive.
People not flap diving.
Well, explain it. Explain what is flap diving? Like, this is a term I've never heard of. So talk to us about it.
You dive, you flap during the dive. Speed. Keep seeing people doing Griffon adventures, and I'm just... If you flap during the dive, you'll get more speed. Oh my god!
Yeah, like some people have the Griffon for 2 years and never learned this one little trick, because only rentals you're not able to do that. People are like, oh yeah, the Griffon can dive, but they never actually try the wing flap mechanic, and they just miss out on it and don't realize that the Griffon's a lot faster if you do that. So that's definitely the first thing. Another thing is your camera position. I think that's also pretty important. This is a thing that a lot of people will overlook. If you're like 3 kilometers away from your Griffon with your camera, you cannot judge your height as well. You want to be a bit closer and a bit lower angle if you're like flying through like the forest or through anything where you can crash against. You kind of want to have a lower angle so you can actually see what you're doing. And like, I say this because I was once also a newbie, and I look back at my videos being like, oh my god, I was completely zoomed out, completely like half top view, and like the fact that I made some of these stunts, I was like, yeah, I can see why I struggled. So that's one of the first things. Also, your character's not part of the hitbox, which is, I think, also an important thing because a lot of people will dive lower than they shoot because they think like, oh, my character will hit the bridge or whatever, and it's not part of the hitbox. You can basically cut off most of the wings, and your character does not have a hitbox.
That is not required to play.
Yeah, and also one of the key differences is this is also about the diving. Just to roll back to that, don't use swoop. Like a lot of people, it's a bit more clear now. They've put it on the hotbar, but first it wasn't on there, and a lot of people just use swoop. But swoop always animation locks you every single time you use it. The first dive you might still survive without crashing, but if you keep using that as your main control button to go down, you will dismount because it's technically just trying to drag you to the ground, trying to dismount you, trying to attack whatever is on the ground. It's not a flying skill. So really make sure to look into your keybinds, go for and look for mountability 1 and mountability 2. You want both of them keybound because your climb, if you use S to climb, you will also slow down your Griffon more, which makes you lose more height, which is something that you want to avoid, obviously, when you're riding your Griffon. So you really want to make sure to use the proper keybinds as well. That's definitely an important factor.
I didn't even know, like, up front, I've made so many Guild Wars 2 videos, and I had no idea that your character is not in the hitbox. So I can't wait to fly my Griffon around and literally like smack my character's head on bridges and not be thrown off the Griffon. I had no idea. That's super cool. And I think that's a great tip to give. Penguin, do you have any other additional tips? Even if it's something simple, like I know maybe the Jade bot can help out with getting height or...
Yeah, so just to add on to what we were just saying, it's also worth mentioning that it's not just your character, like a decent fraction of your wingspan also isn't included in the hitbox. There's also an interesting one that some people will know, some people won't, but the physical size of your Griffon scales with your character's height. So it doesn't matter which race you are, it scales with the height, but there's no need for anyone to panic deleting all their characters and making a small Azura. The actual hitbox is the same, it's only visual. So yeah, if you put the two Griffons next to each other with two different character heights, you'll see that the Griffon actually looks bigger, but it's the same. But yeah, so key things that I would agree obviously with what Willow says. Camera, definitely. Speed boost, 100%. The other one is that I see a lot when people are like trying the adventures for the first time, is they overuse pull-ups. So you see them, they like, whoa, like this, you know. But you can go for once you've got the speed boost, you can go flat for a pretty long time. So every time you're pulling up, you're slowing yourself down. It's bad. So quite a lot of the adventures you can do with no pull-ups whatsoever, especially if you know about the double flapping. So when you do an adventure, if you hit one of the orbs, it resets your energy, like your stamina bar. So you can like flap, hit the thing, and then flap again. So that's really useful. And then as you say about the Jade bot, two key things for the Jade bot: the mount energy booster, which refreshes your energy quicker, lets you flap more. Very useful. And the glide booster, which I think you mentioned about height gain. So yeah, that's basically when you use the glide boost up, you want to try and get the add-on that lets you do that. Worth mentioning that you do need a tier 6 Jade bot for that to actually have any effect. I had it for multiple months, thinking that I was getting the benefit that Willow was talking about. Like, yeah, it's really good, this tier 3. I was thinking, yeah, I mean, it's nice, but it was just a placebo effect.
It does tell you that you need a tier 6 core to do it. Yeah. I equipped it on a character. So it won't work if you don't put a tier 6 core. Oh no, it's more gold.
But yeah, that's definitely
as Pengu said. Can't recommend enough the gliding booster. It is definitely so good. It's free height and it recharges really fast because it's like 30 seconds. It is so useful for like flying around an open world. I interchange it between my characters depending on which one I use for open world because it's that good. I'm willing to spend the time to move the core, to move all the mods from one character to another because you could just do two sky scale thingies, dodges, and then just use the tier 3 and you've got enough height, you can fly anywhere.
It would be lovely if they made it simple to swap it between characters because it is the whole role play of the workbench. I get the idea, but it is a little bit of a faff. That could be simplified.
Also, they're expensive, those mods.
Yeah, sadly, I have to say I did get them for multiple characters, just the ones that I used most. But it's so worth because you can just start from anywhere, from flat ground. You don't need as much height as many people seem to think. Like, I see a lot of people criticize Griffon, being like, "Oh, but you need like an entire mountain to start first." And the thing is, no, this is where sky scale comes into play. You just use your sky scale, and as Archie said, you just dodge twice or 4 times upwards. If you go 4 times, you do need to be a bit quick on the dashing. And you just use a gliding booster and you're there. You have enough height. And if you dash 4 times real quick with the sky skill, you don't even need a gliding booster. I just suggest it because it makes it easier for yourself, a bit more chill, a bit more forgiving, you know? So, yeah.
Something that a lot of players probably don't know is you can keybind mounts on your keybar, so you can instantly switch. And this is something that I still catch myself not doing, where I'll jump off a mount and I'll literally be clicking to find the next mount kind of thing. I think
I used to do that so much.
I still catch myself doing it. It's just like bad habit for me. And I know that I think there's an add-on of a wheel for switching mounts. But I'm just curious, like for all of you here who are, let's be honest, master Griffon riders, like applause to all of you. But what would you recommend to ArenaNet in terms of mounts? Maybe it's not exclusive to the sky scale, but are there any improvements that you wish would be added to the game? Maybe it's something simple like, hey, instead of us having to have an add-on for a menu wheel for switching mounts, can this just be implemented into the core game? So I'm just curious, the floor is open to anyone who wants to chime in as to any feedback of mounts you'd like to give.
Better rentals. That's the first thing for Griffon. At least for Griffon, and Beetle is already pretty decent, but if you look at the Griffon mount, it's the only mount that doesn't have its base mechanic as its core mechanic. So if you have no masteries, it can only flap and glide, right? While technically Skimmer already covers the gliding part. And if you look at any other mount, your Beetle can already speed boost, so you can already kind of feel the speed, right? And Sky Scale can already go up and dash and down, you know? The Griffon is just a flappy bird, let's be real. And because the rentals are pretty bad, people just don't really seem to look further than that because they're like, oh, it can only just flap, you know, that's kind of the thing. And I have to say, I think the way they've done the rental in SOTO with the sky scale is actually a huge improvement already because you can, before you actually have the entire mount, already level the masteries, right? And I think that implementing that for like the older mounts as well would actually be pretty nice. I've certainly for Griffon simply because many people seem to miss the mechanics or like at least a good explanation about what it. That's it mainly.
Definitely that. I think the other thing with the rental, well, first off with the rental again, but you've got the Festival of the Four Winds where you get a Griffon rental and there's adventures there, but you can't complete any of the adventures with the rental. But like with the Beetle out in the fields, like in Gandharan or whatever, you can do it, right? And I think it just needs that tuning to change it so you can do it. But yeah, definitely would go for that. The other thing, as you mentioned earlier, I think the whole thing of it being a secret mount was really cool when it first came out. But I think nowadays maybe it doesn't need to be quite so secret anymore. And I know, obviously, it's well known now, but there's still plenty of people who will join the game who maybe will not find it, or not so easily as, you know, if you start SOTO, you're pushed to get the sky scale, like, it's pretty, like, part of the deal. But I feel like the Griffons kind of not so. Again, with having the rentals, like, if we could, in some dream world, have some more Griffon adventures, maybe in the core maps, like Beetle has. Speaking of Beetle, they earn some more skins. We've been
definitely.
And we would maybe like some Griffons that aren't tigresses, maybe.
I really like a morph and feather wing.
Anyway,
but
if you put feathers on a Griffon, half the guild will buy it. Trust me, we will.
If we could have some, if we could have some adventures in the core maps and like with the masteries you can try and all that, and like guiding people on how to get it, I think that would be great. Again, I think the whole secret mount thing, great idea, cool, but I think the time is maybe
also,
gone for it.
Also about getting the Griffon, I actually wouldn't mind it if they would make the gold sink a little bit less. Like, of course, there's gonna be people who are like, back in my days, I had to do it like for 250 gold. But the thing is, I kind of think like if they, I wouldn't mind it if they make it easier to get. because it is just like a gold sink, and a lot of people are a bit afraid to put 250 gold away. Like certainly when they're new, when they're not so good at the gold making, right? It seems
That
like
is
it
a
digs them up, and a
fortune
lot
for
of
new
people
players.
when they are like, okay, how to get the Griffon? They will see the price tag and they're like, oh my god, you know, and they don't realize that it's actually split up within like you can just it's not in one go, right? You can do it in parts, but a lot of people do not realize that and think that they need to spend the 250 in one go, and it just does turn away a lot of people from it. And I would say like they can either change it to a different currency, because I think gold, because it's used for so many things, a lot of people are a little bit more stingy with it, like I don't want to get rid of my gold yet. So if they change it into either another currency, or for me, I wouldn't mind it if they make it like a lot cheaper. I would be fine with that personally.
I think it's very interesting to hear all the feedback from all of you basically saying, hey, these are some things that would be good. And it seems like the core mechanics for the mounts are great. Like there's not really anything that needs to be added. It's just some small tweaks here and there that can make the... Go
I have
ahead.
a very small request. Just make skies ever so slightly faster. Right now, the dodging is a good speed, but like you see how slow it is when it flies. And I love my skies. I love my shimmer wing as much as I also love Griffon. But like, it's not worth using most of the time because it's so slow.
Oh, this is
It clings to everything, but that's
nothing hurts me more than somebody gliding down with a sky skill, because
Yes.
falling is faster.
That
Falling
hurts.
is faster than going down with a sky skill. That's
It does look cool, but no, don't do it.
I think that does prove the point, though, of how much we like the Griffon as it is and how good of a job we think they did. That, like, really all we want is just more people to be able to get it and try it.
Yeah.
That's our main request.
Well, I think that's a great kind of point, because Arcadis, like you said that you were watching a streamer who rode the Sky Skill, and you're like, oh my goodness. So picture this, right? Someone installs Guild Wars, maybe their friend recommended it or whatever. Imagine they roll a human and there's the siege with the centaurs. Imagine like some of the Seraph go, all right, man, we're hopping on the Griffon, and the player gets to see the swooping and like, you know, very well choreographed NPCs like doing like a route and I don't know, dive bombing on centaurs. Like that could be, players would be like, what is this mount? Like, how do I get this kind of thing? It's not like a horse in World of Warcraft or Lord of the Rings Online. Like, there's some flying freaking birds in this game. Like, how do I get that?
Like, you see a lot more Sky Scales now because Sky Scale got the Fireball, and it's really cool to just fly over and just singe the battlefield with fire, like in Game of Thrones. But like there are events like in Dragonfall or the Shatter where Griffon gains a spear. You can throw a spear. Just put it as a in-game mastery. Let us attack things from Griffon. It's fun. Just swoop at like Mark 3 and throw a spear at something. That's gotta do damage. Just throw a pebble. That's good enough.
Imagine Griffon PvP. That would be the most chaotic thing ever.
Yeah.
Sky Skill PvP is already pretty chaotic, so I can imagine like just going that fast and then just trying to...
You're not hitting another person. It's Griffon jousting.
To be fair, we do a little mini game with that sometimes. But with the targeting system, basically. So
imagine 5 years from now. I don't know. Like maybe you're listening to this podcast 5 years from now. Hey, people in the future, what's up? How's it going? But maybe
hopefully it's better than now.
maybe there is something like that where there's not only PvP, but like you could knock the other person off the Griffon, and I don't know, like overtake their Griffon, and now you're riding on their skinned Griffon. Like there could be a lot of cool mechanics if they do add PvP elements with mounts in the game. And I think I do want to ask this question. It's something that maybe the answer is already spoiled with Penguin's background, but I want to ask everyone the best Griffon mount. Of course, there might be some hot takes in here. Maybe everyone doesn't have to agree, but what is the best skin in your opinion? So the best skin for the Griffon.
It's the Northern Featherwing, and Pointed Corvus are definitely the most loved ones. Like, basically, if you would see a random workshop, most of us are on like those two skins.
Interesting. Is there?
They're super clean for flying. Like really nice animations. They just look nice. Like the wings being like feathered and feeling like real birds.
Right.
They're beautiful.
Quick tip here, like it's not really a useful thing for most people flying around, but if you wing flap just before you pull up, that's how you get the nice wings out to the side animation. And both those mounts look really nice with that. So yeah, definitely Pointed Corvus and Northern. Although I must give them a shout out because they added the 3 owl, well, kind of free.
Yeah.
The Wizard Vault owl skin, and that's a nice one as well. It's a definite upgrade over the base skin. So yeah, love to see that more in-game earnable mounts or mount skins.
Definitely, yeah.
Very
I do
cool.
love the owl as well. My main important thing is the wing model of the Northern Corvus and also the Snowstalker and the new owl. I think the wing shape is really nice to look at. I also like the fact that they're still birds, so like actual griffins, like as much as I do love the tigris as well, but it's still they're a bit chunkier. They're not actually griffins, so it's kind of like where do they actually come from, There's a lot of them, that's also. But the wing model of the Corvus, Northern, Snowstalker, those have the best wing models, I will have to say. I think they're beautiful, they look like they should be fast, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it, basically. They look like they would be fast mounts.
I feel like I should say that no, wrong hand. This is pointed Corvus, so if you're curious, that's what that one is.
I love seeing the mounts in the game, the different skins. So I'm someone who, I'm going to come out right here and just say it, like, sorry guys, I only have the free Griffon mount skin from the Secrets of the Obscure. And so
that is absolutely fine.
Good.
this is why I wanted to ask, like,
you got a skin, that's good.
oh, exactly. What should I invest in? I'm like, oh, maybe I'll ask them on the podcast before I try to get a Griffon skin. Some of them are very shiny, like they have different contrails kind of coming from the wings. If you have, I call it like the galaxy or the shimmering kind of ones. But also I've realized that some mounts will change the sound effects, like they'll echo the Griffon. Is there any like secret skins that we should know that kind of changes something like a contrail or different voices for the Griffon?
The Phoenix has this kind of echoey metallic kind of squawk. It is a beautiful mount, but flying with it is a nightmare. You can't see
anything.
It is beautiful. I absolutely love it. I love flying around with it. Yes, from a distance. When I'm flying around in Echo Vault doing my runestone run, absolutely. If I'm doing a cave, the worst thing you could possibly do is equip a Phoenix with permafrost. You're not seeing anything. You're gonna hurt your eyes and burn your monitor.
Yeah,
I think we would all agree that we're kind of accepting of people choosing any skin that they like, apart from a particular one.
Yes,
we don't talk about that one.
There is a forbidden skin, the Pegasus.
The Pegasus.
We call it the Pegasus because it, unfortunately, that skin is just a little bit of a disaster.
You gotta uncover it though. Like, let's spill the tea. Why is it a disaster?
Like I think if you look at a horse and then you look at the skin.
It's an insult. A horse, okay?
First of all, it's not even a Pegasus. It's an alicorn.
The poor ArenaNet concept artist who spent like their hard-earned hours on this, and the Pegasus is like the forbidden skin and wing. Like,
I will say this. The concept art was good. The concept art was good. It's just it didn't translate well into a 3D model because you can see that they didn't really want to change the rig, and it really looks like it had the legs are too short. And then these front glass, they still gave it Griffon class, which looks really odd because they're very chunky compared to the already short legs. It just seems off. And then the face looks a bit like that unicorn mask, and I don't think that helps either. So it's a bit of a.
I'm never gonna unsee it.
And now. The thing is, I actually think it has some nice things, like for example the glow on the hind leg hooves. I think that's really pretty. I think that the tail is kind of pretty. I do appreciate the tail from it. It's just that overall the model, it just doesn't really work. That's mostly it.
I think again it's worth us pointing out that like we don't like that one so much, but again obviously it's just a bit of a joke. Like we're not going to turn anyone away. Like again, just to mention with like the elitism thing, there's definitely a belief out there that some people think that like only the best of the best players can join Wing or join in, and that is just absolutely the opposite of the case. So anyone can join in. But yeah, it's just like we find that one a bit scuffed, but like overall the amount, like most of the skins are good and stuff, right? So
yeah,
we're not trying to throw shade at anyone with that. It's just a bit of fun.
Great example that the community for Guild Wars is very welcoming to anyone. I mean, if you really think about it, MMORPG players, it's not a dying breed, but like most people, it's a bit easier to, you know, dive into other games outside of an MMO. There's a lot of things you have to learn when you jump into a new MMO, and it's so cool to have a very welcoming guild to train a bunch of different routes for Griffon riding. And again, as you mentioned, like the game doesn't do a really good job of kind of talking about how to ride around on a Griffon and what to do. You got to level up the masteries to really see the potential of a Griffon. So it's just so great that you guys are still accepting people in regardless of skill, regardless of if they're riding the forbidden Pegasus mount or unicorn mount, you know, like, hey, it is what it is. I do want to move on over to our next question in regards to, you know, you guys talk a lot about sky scale. You talk a whole lot about Griffons. Like, it's kind of like your babies. We even have a bird on screen right here. Like, that's how big it is. But I want to ask, if we took away the sky scale and we took away the Griffon, what would be your favorite mount in Guild Wars 2?
Beetle.
Probably Beetle, yeah. Beetle. I do
I'm
love
gonna be the different one.
Oh, here we go.
I love the Jackal.
The Jackal.
I love the what's it called? Mount skin, Shrine Guardian. That one's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
Shrine Guardian is beautiful. I do think after, if we would also take Beetle away, it would be Raptor for me. Because for some reason, I really like the long jumps. I like the feeling of it. But I think that if I wasn't a Griffon person, I would have been a Beetle person. If Griffon didn't exist, it would have been probably Beetle, even if Sky Scale exists. So, yeah.
I think in terms of mechanics, definitely. I do have a soft spot for the Springer, though, in terms of just, like, if we're just going off aesthetics and such. I mean, I used to have a rabbit as well, and then like the Springer, the Borb skins as we call them, the sort of round bird skins for the Springer are just, yeah, the animations when you walk on them, they're just fantastic. So yeah, definitely Springer. I think what I really like about the mounts in general, and definitely when playing through the Path of Fire story for the first time, is they kind of have the sort of old RPG kind of vibe of, like, they unlock new areas for you. So they're more than just obviously, like, if you get a sky scale, you can do what the Springer does, but you kind of get them one at a time. Oh, now I can leap over this gap. Now I can go up this high height, or now I can swim underwater. They're more than just aesthetic. They have a distinct purpose, and I think that's what's so good about them.
100%. And I think the level design for Path of Fire they did a really good job of locking away these areas. Like, you got to unlock the long jump, and then you can get the Springer. I will say, I do like how the Springer looks. I have this really cool looking skin where it has, like, really long horns on the skimmer, or not skimmer, I'm sorry, Springer. I really like that kind of looking mount. And when I hop on that mount with that skin, like, it's got like a bell that kind of jingles. It's so good. And I love these little fine details that they put on for the different skins within the game. So I'm always happy to see any additional skins, and I like ones that you can earn in game. I think in the next expansion, it would be so cool to have, like, a legendary kind of, you know, skin for either of them. And it should be a grind. It should be something that takes you around all of Tyria, but I think that would be a really cool thing to go for. And I don't know, maybe this is something they'll add one day. So I was just curious what your guys' favorite mounts are outside of the flying ones. So
if they would happen to add a penguin Griffon, you know,
there we
I'm
go.
Just saying, I will buy it instantly on both my accounts and give it to people. So, you know,
we keep talking about the in-game earnable skins. I just want to point out, I've recently noticed that, like, when you look at the ones you got from SOTO, the Griffon got a beautiful owl, and the sky scale got a cryptis. Clearly, the sky scale is worse. They're villainizing the sky scales.
They're making it a literal demon.
They got some favoritism at ArenaNet. You know, there obviously there is, and I think
we're all for it. We're all for it.
This is a great transition over to Willow, because you did a kind of like an advertisement or showcase of the new maps while flying around on a Griffon, which is awesome. That was really cool to see when Secrets of the Obscure was coming out. I want to dive a bit deeper, and I don't know if you can't answer something specific, like, you don't have to, but, like, you were probably in an empty map exploring this and flying around. I don't know if you had other players or devs walking around side with you, but, like, what was that like, exploring a brand new area and trying to learn routes through kind of an expansion that wasn't released yet? Like, talk to us about that.
I speedrun it. I was like, I got into this new map, and at first I wasn't even sure if I could go to the other maps because I was completely new to all this, and I was like, okay, I'm not sure what I'm allowed to do, so I kind of first stayed in the Skywatch, right? And I really speedrun every corner from it. I was like flying. I was instantly looking, okay, can I find new gaps, perhaps, you know? And I saw some funny little things, you know, like that we know now, like the April Fool's joke from like Guild Wars back then with the little soldiers and stuff like that. I saw those around, and it was a weird experience having like this entire area kind of just for me. Also really nice lag free, by the way, because there wasn't any there was no one basically outside of like sometimes one person that I would then try to convince to ride a Griffon, you know.
Propaganda.
But yeah, it was a really cool experience, I gotta say. And they were lovely from ArenaNet, and really big thanks for giving me the opportunity to do that. At first, I literally thought I was getting scammed because they just approached me on Twitter randomly, and it was like not a person that I necessarily knew. And I was like, okay, yeah, this one's just like playing some prank on me or something. So I was like, no way, this is real, you know, like.
I had to click away from the video when I saw it. When I saw it pop up, I was like, I will watch this, but it's showing so much of the map, and I saw about 5 or 7 seconds. I was like, I gotta close this real quick before I like ruin the magic of like seeing a map for the first time for my own eyes, kind of thing. Yeah, it was really cool. That I watched it after I played through Secrets of the Obscure, and I was like, oh my goodness, like, did I not see these areas in the map? Like, this is really cool when you can speed through some of the stuff. So that's so cool that you got to do it. And who knows, maybe in the future, ArenaNet will go, hey, we need our master Griffon flyer. Maybe they can get a group of you all to do it. I know they have some different ways to control cameras with dev controls and stuff. So it'd be cool if ANET dev could sit or set up cameras in certain areas and just have like 5 of you swing through a brand new map.
We would love to.
Another question I want to ask all of you. Guild Wars 2 is in a really cool place right now because we get yearly different expansions that are going to be occurring. Obviously, though, there's a lot of wishes that you guys brought on the table for mounts in the game. Do you have any wishes outside of, you know, mounts that would be added to the game? This could be something simple like, hey, I want a Tengu race in the game, or maybe I want more maps in World versus World. I'm just curious, like outside of using mounts and going around that side of things in the game, what are your wishes for future expansions in Guild Wars 2?
Well, for me, it would be actually more raids, because I do like, I am into raids as well, and I do enjoy them, but it is technically just the same thing over and over again, obviously, because nothing really new in that regard comes out, which I think Ceres, again, is a good step in that direction again, so that's pretty cool. But I guess more of the somewhat harder end game content is definitely fun. And yeah, for what you've mentioned about the World versus World, I do think that needs a little bit more love.
For example, they could just like take the same maps that they have, but make it like a Secrets of the Obscure, like a Wizard's Vault kind of, or not Wizard's Vault, like the Wizard's Tower, and have like the same kind of castles, but just kind of like retexturize things. Like I'd still be eager to experience that kind of thing. Imagine if they added like ways you could get up to like floating towers, like via a Griffon. Like, oh my goodness.
Oh, I would just never leave these maps again.
There is the really cool thing in, I think, the desert map where you turn into an eagle.
Any other wishes about other content coming to the game?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Tengu, that would be cool.
Yeah,
I would
Tengu.
quite like to make a Pengu the Tengu character.
Tengu the Tengu.
Yeah, I
the
agree
Tengu.
with the World v World, though. Like, I definitely played a fair amount of World v Worlds. No, I'm not saying I'm an expert in it, but a decent amount, and it's definitely a huge amount of potential in that game mode for sure, as well as like Willow said with the end game stuff. I think there's definitely assumptions that we just flap around on Griffon, so we don't actually know how to play, but it's definitely not the case. Like we've done like challenge mode raids and stuff, so yeah, there's definitely appetite out there, I think, for more hard in game, more difficulty tiers and stuff like that, keep people in, more stuff like Ceres, for like hype for getting people to watch the game and all that kind of stuff. So good communication. I think that's another thing that people really like, even if it's, you know, good news, bad news, like just every time people communicate clearly about what's happening with the game and updates, people love that. Like more and more of that, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think having clear communication and roadmaps is great for any kind of video game. So, and I think ArenaNet is really improving on that front, and I applaud them for what they've had so far. Arcadis, I know you are a bit kind of the novice of the group, but I'm just curious, like,
Yeah.
is there anything you would actually add to Guild Wars as a player who recently started a couple of years ago?
Yeah, as Willow said, definitely raids. I have been very much enjoying running them. I very much enjoy teaching them, even though they should not let me teach them because I have no clue what I'm doing. But there is an outcry I've heard from a lot of people from the community, and something I have noticed myself: underwater combat, ArenaNet. What happened there? What happened to underwater combat? It's not like it's particularly useful, but there's like I do a lot of fractals lately with a friend of mine, and every time the underwater fractal comes around, we don't like it's so hard because there is no underwater builds. No one knows what they're doing, and like the underwater weapons, as a mesmer, are really kind of not particularly friendly to players. At least I find them confusing as Mirage, since the ranged weapon has an ambush melee attack and the melee weapon has an ambush ranged attack, and I'm just confused. I don't know what I'm doing with them. A bit of the game where I know it doesn't pop up very often, but I think it would benefit from an update.
Sure, absolutely. I think there's a lot of different things they could add to underwater combat. I actually got in a fight 2 weeks ago with someone in World versus World. We found ourselves underwater, and it was like, okay, what do these skills do again? I came up on top. I was very surprised at that, but I did most of my damage on land before I chased him underwater, and that was really cool to do.
The most funny thing is when it's not about what the underwater skills do. It's even more hilarious when you run into the water and, oh god, where's my underwater weapon?
That's me every
I don't have
time.
anything.
That is me. Or like,
you don't have anything.
last time
It's
it
like a
was
level 10 weapon or something.
and I forgot to get myself these weapons, and then I was like, I'm gonna chase them underwater. Where's everything?
One more thing, actually, I just thought of that would be nice. And I think they've done one thing which was a good step towards it, is some sort of streamlining of the stats selections that there are. I think when they made the change that the boosted gear is Celestial, I think that was a really great change, because the gear it gave you before was fairly useless. More like recommended gear sets and stuff like that to help people get into like end game. Because a lot of people like they come into the. I mean, you can look, and I know it sounds like elitist or whatever, but if you look at a DPS graph of people doing an open world meta, a lot of people are doing very, very little damage, and half the time it's not that they're not pressing any buttons. They're probably pressing lots of buttons, but the gear they're using is like rare tier, healing stats, like because they don't know. And
I remember
I think
somebody doing 500 damage, like 500 damage per second, and I do feel that ArenaNet should kind of nudge them in a direction, like just to help them as well, to avoid situations where they like the player will be really top forward as well and stuff like that, like
we have for Berserker stats like the cheap gear, right? That's like named.
There's a lot. Berserker is really
stuff
easy
like
to
that
get
for the other
to.
ones would be like just like being honest with everyone about like these are the stats that are actually used. Maybe get rid of some that no one uses. Give a sort of hey, maybe have it even like a quest, like a sort of a precursor to the raid collection or something, where you instead of an ascended set, like nothing too complicated, just like practicing some combo fields or what boons do, and then if you finish it, you can choose a set of like recommended gear. Like here's a full setup, like full exotic berserker setup for class that you're playing, off you go, something like that. I don't know, that sort of thing would be
and teaching people about boons in general. That would be, because a lot of new players will probably be very confused by all the boons in the game and having their entire bar full of all kinds of things and not knowing what it actually does. So a little bit of teaching about boons, because a lot of people who just come new into the game, they don't understand what it is to begin with.
As the quote-unquote new guy here, I remember being incredibly confused as to what I was doing. I started off with Chronomancer, which is pretty simple on paper, but like getting the rotations down, and everything. I heard my friend just talking about rotations and your build, and I just sat there cluelessly. I later looked up like builds and stuff. I tried, but I never actually looked into the rotations, and I never always thought, all right, your armor and your weapons are important. Your trinkets, your rune sigils, and that's like bonus damage. No, the runes and sigils alone are like half your stats, and people don't know how much of a difference that makes. Also, people not knowing about the DPS golem and the Lion's Arch, which is really, really nice to test out things. We had recently a player that joined trading raids. They are relatively new to the game, and they were doing like 3,000 to 5,000 damage a second, which is like, that's healer damage. I took him to the golem. I showed him around. We looked for a few builds for him, and now he's doing 15k on the golem, which is
Let's go.
Like, that is a huge improvement. And like, of course he's going to be doing more damage on the golem. He doesn't have trinkets. He doesn't have the relic. He doesn't have rune sigils. Even still, having half decent damage will avoid you getting kicked from IBS strikes, which I still get salty about. Like, looking at the insane requirements for some of the end game events and instance content. It's like people require you to have experience when you can't find training for nothing, basically. When I started out, I looked at training raids. I maybe saw 1, 2 maybe. They don't happen often, and that's why I'm very happy for Wing, for Fluffy, with his initiative to start raiding, and it kind of worked out. Yeah.
When it comes time to any MMO, like I can't say or blame people who are coming in who are doing low damage. Like, it's hard to understand a lot for any MMO. There's so many different menus you have to read. Everyone's telling you to go in different places. There's so many different expansions. Yes. Like, what class do I pick? Okay, like, where do I level up? Like, where do I get my gear? Oh, I got something that's yellow. Maybe that's better than orange. Like, you know, there's a lot of things that can be improved on. But it's just so awesome to hear that people like you guys are able to point people in the right direction, whether it's how to get better at flying on a Griffon, how to actually do a little bit more damage in raids, or even things such as like where to find your gear at. Like, this is easier for other people to kind of tell because there's no one-stop solution that ArenaNet can add. They can add pop-up windows, they can add things, but you know how it is. People click away from things or don't read things, and then they're lost, kind of thing. I do want to end today's podcast. I always ask about favorite beverages. We'll save that to the end. But I do want to ask, though, what types of games are you playing outside of Guild Wars 2 at the moment? So I'll go ahead and say first, I play Guild Wars 2 every single Tuesday on Twitch. I play World of Warcraft on Wednesdays. I enjoy playing WoW. And I'm actually a new player in Final Fantasy XIV. I'm enjoying playing that as well. I have a great time doing these 3 MMOs every single week. I know it's actually kind of too much for my brain sometimes. I forget about keybinds. What are you guys interested in playing outside of Guild Wars 2 in your free time?
I do 3 different ones currently myself. Got the Guild Wars trainings on Mondays, and then I'm doing 2 like first time playthroughs of not new games. So God of War is one, which I'd never played before, and I'm having a great time with that. And also trying Monster Hunter World, which has been interesting. But yeah, previously I've done Elden Ring. I'm interested in playing the DLC. Play Total War games. I like those. I've suffered League of Legends. Yeah. So there you go.
But for me, I guess, before I got addicted to Guild Wars 2, I did play a lot of games. I was kind of swapping between MMOs a lot as well, like also dabbing into some older, sadly not so alive anymore MMOs like Arcade and Ion and stuff like that. Also played things like Resident Evil. I actually went into, when they released Dragonflight, because I kind of was like, oh, I kind of want to compare it. I also went into World of Warcraft. I am interested in actually going a bit further with that, because I did enjoy my time in there. It's just monthly sub that I'm a bit like, do I have enough time to invest in it that much that I will play it? But I am interested in that as well. Also, another game that I just recently got into is Icarus, which is a very mount-focused MMORPG. It's completely dead in terms of player numbers, but I was kind of like, I just want to try it. I want to see what the deal with it is and how the mounts are there.
I spend way too much time online. I do play a lot of Guild Wars, but now with the advent of new content in my beloved game, which is Destiny 2, I'm going to be going back to spread the Griffon propaganda amongst the stars. I made a Griffon Academy clan in Destiny. I also love RTS games. I am very much waiting for Homeworld 3 to come out in May, and I'll definitely be streaming both Homeworld and Destiny Story. Alongside, of course, training raids, because apparently I need to do those now.
We're all gamers at heart, so we play other games out there. Like Penguin, you mentioned that you played League back in the day, and now you're jumping into God of War. Willow, you enjoyed playing other MMORPGs that maybe they're not around. I myself dabbled in so many different multiplayer games. Rest in peace, Club Penguin. You know, you will be missed. As well as Arcadius. You know, you're a big fan of Destiny, which eventually I'll try and play this year. I'd love to try and make a video on it. In fact, the last podcast I did, I spoke with a musician, and he's actually a fellow Destiny player as well. And I would have never thought he would play a game like that. So it's cool to see people play that. The final question.
If you need help, message me.
There we go. I'll let you know.
Me and my raid do like helping others, and that's kind of what we do. We carry them through raids. It's not only Guild Wars raid trainings, but we also do Destiny raid trainings.
You're like a raid god, you know. You're always there teaching everywhere.
No. I teach them, but I'm never good at them. I've done the most stupid things I could possibly get away with. That's why I'm usually the commander, because no one can kick me.
I think it goes without saying that we'd obviously offer you to come and fly with us as well if you want to, or any.
Heck yeah!
Tours.
Great segue, actually. Thank you, Penguin. If people are interested in learning the Griffon, I'd love to actually try and learn some routes myself. So I'd be happy to do so on stream one day. But I'm curious though, like, if people want to join Wing, like, how do they do that? Do they have to, you know, mail in an application and wait 30 days until, or like, what is that?
Be on the Griffon, ask anyone of Wing they usually can refer to, and I can just invite them. But really, like Griffon, be nice. That's about it.
Yeah, if you happen to be flying a Griffon in the vicinity of basically anyone, their chances are you'll get an invite anyway. So many workshops where Willow just goes, Griffon, and just starts chasing them.
Discord GG, and then the Griffon Academy with dashes in between. I can type that in my sleep at this point. Come join any of our sessions. Like for me, it's at 7:30 on the Monday, EU RNA UK time.
I'll be sure to put it in the description. So if people want to join the Discord, you're more than welcome to. The final question I have to ask for every single podcast episode is, of course, what your favorite beverage is. I love mineral water. Water is my go-to, and it's my favorite. Here we go, Penguin. You got water right there. Do we have a
It's the hydrated podcast. We had to be on brand.
With water, unfortunately, in my native accent, if I don't change it, my Yorkshire accent, there is no tea in water, it's just water. So yeah, that's a little fun fact for you there.
Coffee and orange juice. I know, not together, but you know.
You never know. I'm just curious though, like for coffee, because a lot of people, they'll have either milk in it or sugar. Like, what is your go-to for coffee? Is it just black coffee?
Like in the mornings, usually just black coffee. And my work is kind of my life juice, you know, like don't function without it. So, but I usually drink it black and sometimes with milk.
If anyone's interested in joining Wing, the description has their Discord. And if you have any questions, I can't promise that these three will answer in the comments section, but if you do have a question, feel free to throw it in there. I'll throw the video over to them so they can check it out.
Too much time in that comment section.
We're just gonna like it.
Thank you all for joining me here today, and as always, gamers, stay hydrated. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for having us.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.